Hi everyone, I'm Will Bryan and welcome to the WP Quickies series, bite-sized words and tips in 30 minutes or less. Welcome to 2022, the first WP Quickies of 2022. So thanks for being here with me today. Drop your name, where you're from in the comments. We'll have a look, see who is around today. We have Dowie. Good afternoon, Dowie. We've got Rania and Jonathan Cooper as well for checking in from the Central Coast. It's great to have you guys again in 2022. A nice sunny day here in Sydney, so that always makes things bright and cheery for today. So in this lunchtime quickies, I am going to be looking at WordPress Site Health. A nice easy one to ease into the new year. Who else have we got here? We've got Future Shock in Marvinville. We've got John T. And we've got John Verk as well. John T is from Ride in Sydney. I've got Joey J tuning in from Singapore. Joey, I have missed you. We've got Michael as well from Spokane. And Rihanna is in the office in North Sydney. I hope you're enjoying back into the office with all your colleagues in there. Okay, just some housekeeping before we start. Just make sure you click on the subscribe button and ding bells and wherever you are on social media watching this. We have a Facebook group as well, kind of newish Facebook group. So there's the link there. If you just search for WordPress Sydney Meetup, you'll be able to find that. And just a little note, because we're broadcasting on StreamYard, if you are watching this from within the Meetup group, click on the streamyard.com/Facebook link, and that will just link up your avatar with Facebook so we can know who you are. Otherwise, it just comes up with a little anonymous thing. I don't know who you are. We've got Rosling from Rahurunga. I hope I pronounced that one correct. And Lance as well from Connecticut. Welcome, Lance. Good to have you on board. Again, just a few housekeeping things. I'm going to run through housekeeping first. So if you want to know what all the meetups are in Australia, you can visit wpaustralia.org. And as well, that's got a link to the WordPress Australia, WP Australia Slack group as well that you can join and hang out. A little bit of advertising from me. So if you're a web developer or designer who creates and maintains client websites, I've got an ultimate website owner survival guide called WOSG. You can have a look at that at wosg.com.au in your spare time. And I always get asked about links from this show. So all the links are posted, including the presentation, in the video description, whether it be on YouTube or Facebook. So I'll post those after the stream has ended. And if you've got any questions, just drop them in the comments at the sidebar, and I'll try my best to work through and answer. Last bit of housekeeping before we run in. So the monthly evening WordPress Sydney Meetup is on the last Monday of every month. It's at 6 p.m. You can RSVP at meetup.com/WordPress-Sydney for that. And so I'm going to be covering WordPress 5.9, which launched a couple of weeks ago. It's a huge update, lots of new things. Predominantly the full site editing. So I'm going to be starting to look at this 5.9, exactly what's in there, and having a little bit deep dive into this full site editing as well. So join me on February the 28th, last Monday of the month, and that's at 6 p.m. So it's an evening meetup for that, and it's online for that. Okay, let's jump in. I'm going to make this one. There we go. So WordPress Site Health. So what is it? So the Site Health tool was introduced in WordPress 5.2. It monitors the overall health of your website and notifies you of any kind of major issues for those. Now, you need to check this tool regularly to get on top of any WordPress core issues. And recently, we've seen some of the big plugin authors are also starting to use this Site Health area to notify users of the kind of major big issues as well. So they still use the little nags the top, but just recently a couple of the big plugins have started to use the Site Health because larger plugins like WooCommerce, like Yoast SEO, and they've got lots of bits, lots of moving balls in the air. So if there are any big issues, they're starting to report these things within this WordPress Site Health tool. But for the majority of fact, then it is all just WordPress core, mostly WordPress core. Okay, so where did the site health tool come from? It looks like the background's missing here. That's quite annoying. So it's common for a lot of the core features, the WordPress core features, to actually start as plugin. These are called featured plugins. And the site health was the same. I'm just going to post a link in the comments there. You can have a look at it. So although the tool has been integrated into WordPress core as of 5.2, the featured plugin still exists in the WordPress.org repository, where you can report on any issues, and it's ongoing. So if you've got any particular issues with the site health tool, you can report them to that WordPress plugin page, and then the authors will kind of raise an issue and try and fix that for those. But as of most of these features that people think would be a good idea to start off to include in the WordPress core, they start off as what's called featured plugins. So people can install kind of beta version, play around with it, iron out all the issues before it's kind of ready to go into the WordPress core track, which is a different ball game all in itself. And so that's where it came from. Started off as a little plugin. So where do you find the site health? Well, you can navigate in your dashboard to tools and then site health, and that will bring up this little screen here. So it consists of two parts. We have a status screen and we have an info screen. So let's have a quick look. Oh yeah, as of WordPress 5.4 as well, the site health widget was introduced to the dashboard. So it's super easy just to keep an eye on highlighted issues. And it's going to just report on kind of critical issues and just give a very, very overall summary of the site health. But if there are any issues, then you can always navigate back to the main tool, which is under tools and then site health, just to give you more information on what the issues are. So yeah, so the widget on the dashboard is super helpful, not healthy. So what's available in the site health area? Well, the tool, it gives you an overall summary of your site's health directly under the page title. Now, for most people, it'll say it should be improved. There's usually one or two things that are nagging. It could be a PHP issue. It could be that you've disabled the cron and that you're using a server-based cron tab as well, which I do for all my websites. So things like that is going to clock up within site health. So you're probably going to get a should be improved right underneath the main title. But let's have a look at the status area. So status area is the first one. It's on by default when you go into the tool. And what you'll see is when you click on the health tool, what's going to happen is WordPress will perform a few background health tests. So it might take a second, maybe a couple of seconds, depending on how fancy your server is. But you'll probably see some little Ajax spinners while it's collecting all those information. But once that happens, then the status screen is going to show some issues. It shows issues at the top, and then it shows recommended improvements at the bottom. And so each issue and recommended improvements, that they're bundled into two major categories, security and performance. Security, it does checks like active themes and plugins, your HTTPS connection to make sure you've got one. Things like debug mode is off. Communication with WordPress.org, so sending information back and grabbing information too, which you obviously need to update themes and plugins, and background updates and statuses like that. And the performance side is looking for WordPress and PHP versions. It's looking for at your SQL server required and recommended PHP modules that are installed, UTF-8 MB4, which is the database character set. Make sure that's supported, and things like scheduled events, HTTP requests, the REST API, and loopback requests. So that's again the two core modules it's looking for: security and performance. The site health tool, it gives you some health statuses in three different layers. So you've got your kind of two categories, and you've got three different layers for those. The first one is critical issues. And so you can see here on screen, there's one critical issue there just now. So this shows the number of critical issues found. It marks issues with categories, so namely the security and performance for those, and any additional information as well. So if you click down on that accordion, it's going to show you a little bit more information about it, possibly links as well. The next one is recommended improvements. So it's going to show all the recommendations to kind of improve your site health. And it also gives instructions on how to address each of those individually if you expand down on the accordion. And then at the bottom, they've got displayed tests as well. So displayed tests, it displays a number of items, number of tests that has passed when you've opened up that particular site health tool. And here's a list here. So if you scroll down to the very bottom, you can see all the past tests. It's all collapsed by default. So you click on the past test, and it shows you all the different tests this tool is performing when you're looking at it. You can see here, it's looked at WordPress 5.9 version, which is fine. It's got the current version of PHP, which is 7.4.x. The time zone is valid and things like that. So it runs through all these checks for those. So you can see all the past tests. Down at the bottom if you want to see exactly what WordPress is doing within this health tool. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of myself just now. There we go. So here is an example of one of the critical issues. So by default, all the issues and recommendations are collapsed into accordions. Expand each accordion to get more details on the issue or recommendation. And here you can see that the expanded issue is warning about the WordPress debug log being switched on. And of course, for security reasons and performance, it's recommended that you switch off the WordPress debug on production environments. Now, this expanded accordion, expanded information, it's likely going to contain a little bit of an information, a little bit of background as to why it's highlighted this issue, the reasons for it being a critical issue or performance issue, and usually some links as well to get some more additional information. So usually the links are linked back to the WordPress documentation, or it could be links to particular areas in the website as well if you need to go and switch things on or off. So it's a really helpful guide to try to explain what's happening and steps to resolve that. So let's have a look at the other screen. So this one is the info tab. So you can switch that just from the top by clicking on the info. And the info screen, it shows valuable information about your website setup, including things like WordPress, directories and sizes, active themes, inactive themes, must-use plugins, active plugins, inactive plugins, media handling, server, database, WordPress constants, and file system permissions. So there's a lot in there, and a lot of it's to do with the WordPress core. It's to do with your environment that the WordPress stack is built on for those. Now this screen, it gives you a fantastic overview of all the information you probably need to know if you're thinking about moving WordPress, if you're thinking about upgrading your hosting plan, if you're thinking about tweaking performance or diagnosing problems with your website. This is probably the first place you want to look at before you jump into something like cPanel and your web hosting guide, because it's going to give you an overview as to what it thinks the issues are, and then it's going to give you direction as to where to go to fix those things. So let's have a look at a couple of examples. I'll get rid of myself just now. There we go. So this one, I've expanded the directories and sizes panel. And you can see here that it shows the information about directory locations. So that could be useful if you're using SSH, if you're logging into the back end using SSH to try and locate different files. It tells you where your exact home is and where the folder is and where your web root is. So that one for here, it's my little test server. So you can see here it is home and then slash, and it's got this kind of random number and then slash public underscore HTML. So that's the root of my WordPress install on that particular server there. And it gives data such as directory upload size, things like the database size as well, and also installation size. And those are really, really useful metrics. So I had somebody asking, they're on a Linode installation at the moment, and they're looking to move to something a little bit more managed, so SiteGround, for example. So we had to determine how much usage, how much size there was on the disk, because that's obviously a requirement when you're having to think about SiteGround plans and other ones. So I came here into Site Health, and it told me the WordPress directory sizes. It told me the uploads, how many uploads they had, and they had a lot of uploads because they had a lot of generating PDF files. So that gave me an idea as to what sort of plan I needed to go. So it's very good. So overall, you can see the number of plugins as well, what size those are. But at the very bottom, you've got database size, which is relevant, and total installation size as well. So, if you're looking at hosting plans, it's a great little place to go to see all the information just at hand. Another one as well. So a common issue with WordPress users come across is when uploading media files is, some issues. You can't upload any files, or when you're trying to update a theme or a plugin, you get error message that says, cannot copy file to blah, blah, blah. So what you can do is you can come here, and this is the file system permissions, and it just does a quick check on all the directories that are required for WordPress. So things like the main WordPress directory, things like the WP content, uploads, plugins, themes, things like that. And it just tells you whether it's writable or readable, or unable to access for those. So if you ever have any file issues with uploading stuff, this is probably the best place to come. It just shows you all those directories. If any of them says readable or unavailable, unable to access, then you need to jump into your WordPress hosting environment and go and change those permissions, or raise a support request with the file host as well. Okay, that is it. So that is a really, really quick quickie. I've got some questions here. Let's have a quick look. Oh no, we don't. Jonathan says, I've lost you. Hopefully you can get back on. Do you guys want a little demo? I've got a few minutes to go. Do you want me to jump into the Site Health and let you see what additional information is there? I can do that. Let me just remove that, and I will add another screen. Share screen. Okay, do this one and make it big. Stream, there we go. Okay, so tools and Site Health. There we go. So other stuff in here. So we've got the WordPress. So this is my little test server in here. Hope you guys can still see. So it just tells you like the version of WordPress. I'm just going to look at the side monitor at the moment. So that what version it's got, your language, time zone. It's got your home URL, site URL. It's got things like HTTPS, so you can make sure you're using the HTTPS for that. If anyone can register on the site for comments and things like that. So really useful WordPress information you can get at hand. We've had a look at the directories and sizes. Active theme, so we can tell you exactly what active theme you are running. But as well, it tells you a list of the inactive themes as well. Things like must-use plugins. So I've got the Manage WP worker on here. Things like active plugins as well. I can tell you what ones are working. Inactive plugins, I've got a huge, because I use this as like a demo. So there's lots of inactive plugins in there. But media handling as well. So it tells you in the back end what PHP libraries are currently loading in and which ones are maybe missing as well. So if you've got some problems with your images, not resizing and things, then you can look to this to see if there's any issues with there. So it just gives very general file uploads are enabled. It gives you the size of the maximum upload. Again, so if you're finding that things are a little bit, things are not loading in, you can have a look and see what the maximum size is as well. Server. So it gives you some server information. So it can tell you what operating system is running if you need to know that. But more importantly, what web server you're running, because sometimes you need to know what web server version is running when you're configuring things like caching plugins, for example. And so here it says it's running Apache, and it's telling you the PHP version as well, which is the current one, so 7.4 and 64-bit. And it's got some other useful PHP stuff that, usually web host support tickets ask you things for. Curl as well. So curl is used to contact other third-party websites and bring down stuff. So for example, if you're doing a plugin update, WordPress uses curl to download the zip file for the new plugin or theme update and things like that. So that's great. You can see some server information without having to log into your cPanel or anything like that. It's got some database information as well, so it can tell you what's the extension it's using PHP is using to contact it, the version numbers as well, and again, it's got things like the table prefix, the database name, what character set is running, and the total size as well. So really useful information if you're looking to debug stuff, or if you're looking to maybe start with enhancing performance of the server. WordPress constants as well, so you can check to see things like your WordPress debug. So there I've got WordPress debug on. And that's why it was telling me there's a critical error or critical issue in the Site Health, because you really shouldn't have that on in a production environment. But you can have a look at all those different constants that are setting, and of course the file system paths as well, which is there. So I've not got anything else from any third-party plugins in here at the moment, but you can see it's very, very easy to use. It's got your status, and then you've got the following info here, and you can see it's doing quick checks at the top. It's doing a little Ajax check each time you go in there, just to make sure it's got the most up-to-date data. And so nice and simple, really, really good summary of stuff in there. I really do like this health check system. Let's see if I can get back onto the other one. I'll just F11 this and F11. So guys, if you've got any questions, you can drop them down in the comments. At the moment, I'm not seeing any coming through, so I'm going to nip through to a few more slides before we close. So I'm always looking for suggestions. This is a new year. I like to bundle up some topics for the next few weeks. So if you guys have any things you'd like to talk about, we're looking for roughly about 20 minutes of talk, and then that gives us maybe like a 5 minute, 10 minutes for questions afterwards, which would be ideal. So if you can fill that in, that'd be fantastic. Michael's asking about Imagic. Yep. So Imagic is a PHP module that used to use, or I think that's a new one. I think the old one is GD something, GD library. So the new one is Imagic, and it's a PHP module that WordPress uses to do things like cropping or rotating and stuff, anything to do with image optimization. It's a PHP module for that. And if it isn't there, that falls back on the GD, which is the old library. Great question. Thank you very much, Michael. You can get in contact with me. Here I am. I've been a WordPress developer since 2008, consultant developer, business coach. There's some of my websites. I'm mostly on LinkedIn these days, under Developer Will. On Instagram as well, willbrown_EU, and on Twitter for my rants as well, and willbrown_EU. So happy to connect with you guys. If you want to jump on LinkedIn, just make sure you tell me that you're connecting through me through the WP Quickies, because I get a lot of requests every day, and I don't necessarily know exactly who they're coming from. So next week on WP Quickies, I'm going to be talking, the boxing gloves are coming off. I'm going to be talking about WooCommerce versus Shopify. So some of the pros, some of the cons, which one you would want to use. So hopefully that'll be a bit of a lively debate. So if you want to join me, have a think about some questions for those. Shopify versus WooCommerce, the pros and cons, and I will try my best to answer those. So Jonathan's got a quick question before I leave. If my site is not performing well, or it's slow at times, what should I look at? Well, you can look at the site health, make sure that you've got all the up-to-date versions, like PHP is running the most up-to-date version. You can check with your database as well, have a look at the size of your database and make sure it's running the right extensions for those. That's the kind of stuff that if you go to a web host and you say, look, my website's slow, that's probably the sort of things that they'll check for, but you can do a little bit yourself. So if you can see that your database is, several gigabytes in size, then it's something you might want to tailor to look at, getting rid of some of that junk, probably a lot of revisions as well. And again, you can check the constant WP, the number of revisions as well, and maybe reduce that down to 1 or 2. So there's a few key metrics you can look at, maybe like the total size of your uploads as well in the site health. So if you're thinking about that, your website's pretty slow, those are some kind of things you can look at in the site health, and also the PHP as well. So we had a look at under the server part. It tells you how much PHP memory is being used, how many worker threads as well. So things like if you've got like a WooCommerce, it uses a lot of background Ajax stuff, which means it's constantly spinning up PHP, what they call worker threads. So if you've not got as many worker threads, maybe you can expand that by a couple of worker threads, increase the memory a little bit, and you can maybe improve performance. But the site health is kind of very general. So if you're having server problems, I would start looking at your WordPress, your database, and your server version, server details as well. And that's going to give you a little bit of a hint as to what you need to do to try and make that a little bit more performant. On top of IT says number of WP revisions. Does it store previous versions after upgrades? If you got a WordPress default version, you've not done anything to it, then WordPress basically stores every single post as a revision. So that clocks up and clocks up and clocks up as well. So it's something you want to do is find the constant that is your revisions and maybe reduce that down to maybe 2 or 3. So you maybe only keeping like 2 or 3 versions of posts. Otherwise, over a few years, then you end up with thousands and thousands of revisions in the database. It doesn't clean it up itself. So if you want to maybe jump back to one of my WP quickies last year, I talked about the database performance, and that shows you how to clean up revisions from there. Okay, I'm going to find my pointer, which has disappeared. There it is. Okay, guys, so next week, join me for WooCommerce versus Shopify. Bring your questions about each of the ones, and I'll try to answer them as best as I can. Thank you very much, guys, for tuning in. Thank you for your questions as well. It's always appreciated, and I'll catch you guys next week. Ciao.